These are 5 easy tricks that you can train your dog. Number 1, shake. You can either hold a treat in your hand that your dog really wants, and as your dog goes to scratch, good, you can mark and say yes. Now, if you're worried your dog is going to scratch your hands learning this trick, you can put a treat under a Tupperware, or as I have here, a coffee lid, a lid for a container. Good. And the moment the dog goes to try and scratch to get the treat out, you mark and then feed the treat from underneath. It's right here. And then you can even give another treat. So once you've got that down, you can then hold the object in your hand. If you're worried your dog is going to scratch you, you can wear a long sleeve shirt and use a Frisbee, so they're not going to be able to get your skin. But if you're really concerned, don't train the trick if you think your dog is going to hurt you. Okay, so then you put the treat under, once the dog is scratching it on the ground, you put the treat in your hand and then see if your dog might think to scratch to get the treat under the lid. And then the final step is pretending to put a treat under the lid, seeing if your dog will offer the behavior, and then showing them you have no treat, but they still get one. So I move it side to side to get that initial behavior. And now when I can see that the dog is doing 3 in a row within a few seconds of eating their treat, I then add the cue. So I can say shake or whatever it is. Shake. Good. And then if you didn't want to have the target anymore, you then, once it's reliable on the target, you can then start just using your hand. So you say shake and then hold your hand out. Ready? Shake. Good. Her cue isn't shake. Shake. Good. So there she offered both paws. So I'm going to hold my hand to the right of her so that she offers her right paw. Good. Shake. So the next trick that we're going to learn is wave. Adios. Good. So once your dog has mastered shaking, when you reach your hand out and ask them to shake, then you can teach your dog to wave. I suggest training shake and wave on both. Oh, she's going to do something more impressive, which is wipe her ears. You can teach shake and wave on both sides of the body, and that's really going to help build their muscles on either side. So it's a really healthy idea to work on both sides. So to do that, you simply ask for the behavior when you want the right paw. You have your hand extremely to the right and add a different cue for verbal cue than the one on the left. Good job. So to teach wave, what you do is ask for shake and then just go higher and higher. Good. And you can go back to using the little lid if that's how you trained shake originally. But if you just used your hand with a treat in it, you just hold it higher and higher like that. Good. And then the final step is doing the whoa too slow method, which is you ask for a high five and you move your hand away, which people used to do in school. I don't know if they do that anymore. I don't think it's cool anymore. But as the dog is reaching to hit your hand, you mark when they're not touching your hand. So you can either use a clicker or say yes or good as they do the behavior. Yes, good. Yes. Good. Good. And then I would go back a step and get them to hit your hand. Good. So that it doesn't always get harder and harder. To get distance, you can have the dog on a couch or a bed. Wave. Good. Can you do bye? Bye. Good. Trick number 3, teach your dog to go in a circle around you. This trick is great for practicing your luring skills. So you're going to have treats in both of your hands and you're going to be practicing teaching your dog to go from one lure to the next. If you're holding the treat way too close to your dog's face, they're not going to be able to learn the trick as well because they're concentrated on how do I get that treat out of the hand. So I suggest first beginning by having the dog follow the treat from a distance above and not too excitedly. Good. So if your dog is a little bit too excited, feed them a meal, or use a lower value treat like their kibble to begin with. Once the dog is following a treat in one hand, you can practice switching over. So I'm going to move to the next hand, good, and mark for the dog exchanging hands to follow. Because this is a skill they're going to need for going around in a circle as well as the leg weaving. Are you ready? So we're going to follow the treat this way and then follow the treat that way. Good. You want to make sure that you're working on a non-slip surface like carpet or grass so that your dog doesn't slip while doing these behaviors. Are you ready? Okay. First we'll do clockwise. So I have a treat in my right hand and I'm going to lure him behind my back. Good. Mark him following the treat. As he's eaten the treat, I show him my other hand that has the treats in it and wiggle it a little bit and try to quickly conceal the other hand. So now he's in front again. Most dogs, once they've gone past you a certain amount and they've eaten a treat, they're going to come around to see where you are and come back to the front where the treats are usually given. But if you haven't gotten them all the way to that point yet, they will back up and come around this way. So I'm luring him as far back as I can, feeding him back there, and then picking him up with this hand. Awesome. Good job. Good. The next step is luring and switching hands before you give the treat. So I'm luring him back here, switching, good, and then feeding the treat over here. So this hand is now also pointing to the original hand that lured him. If you need to break that down even more, you can, good, mark here, good, mark here, good, mark here, and good, mark there. I suggest getting your dog to go around you like this 3 times with a lure before getting the treat. Good. Before trying to see if you can do it with no treats in your hand. So I'm going to put the treats away, pretend I have treats, lure him 1 time around. Good. Mark and reinforce. If you have a dog that's a little slow, like this guy, what I can do is, good, throw the treat to speed him up. If you're agile on your feet, you can also train this trick by turning and using one hand to lure. Good. Did I bump you with my bait bag? Go around. Good. And for the other direction, you can also use a prop to have your dog go around like this. Good. So at first you're luring the dog around the prop and it should be something higher than their shoulder. And then you can start to make the hand signal less and less. Number 4 is leg weaving. So it's the same concept of following one hand to the other as we did in the previous trick, which was going in a circle. And this time we're going to start with the dog on the left side and use the right hand to lure the dog through your legs. So think about it. If you step forward with the right leg, you're going to lure with the right hand. So these things go together and these things go together. So I'm going to step forward with my dog on the left, and then I'm going to lure from behind, show him what I've got in my hand. Good, like that. And then reinforce him for coming around. Good job. Are you ready? So then I step forward with my left leg. He said, I already know this trick. Good. Awesome. And then once your dog has got it, you can exchange hands like this. So they're following one lure, it disappears, and then the other one goes behind. So they really have to learn that skill that the treat is here and now it's here. If you're having trouble at first, you can use a target stick with a treat inside like that and lure the dog like that so you don't have to bend over. Ready? Awesome. If you're unable to use your legs as weave poles, you could just use 2 objects like water gallons or plant pots, or if you have a small dog, just plastic cups that are upside down. So if you can't lean over either, you can use a target stick. So I've got a treat in here and I'm just going to lure him through. Good. And then drop the treat. So you mark the movement of the dog following. Good. And then you place the treat a little ahead so that you get more for your money and you reinforce that movement. Good. I think Bliss should do this. Ready? Good. Ready? Now I pretend to put a treat in. Good. So you might do a couple of training sessions before you pretend to put a treat in if your dog is not familiar with following a target, but Cloud is. That's why I can show you all the steps. Good. Then you can add a cue. So for him, I'm going to call it, are you ready? Go weave. Awesome. And then I can start to fade the, what do you call this? A target stick further away, and so that it goes further and further away. So at first it's like very obvious like this, but then it's not even going past the cup. You can either lure with one hand, good, or two. So I can use this hand and point that way, good, and this hand and point that way, awesome. Or I could do that, awesome, and that. And those can turn into hand signals as well if you wanted to then have your dog weave at a distance, so have a longer distance between getting to the two cups, which could be fun. You can also do a stationary weave where you're bending your knee and luring the dog through there. And then you can start to fade the lure and not use your hands. Are you ready? Go legs, go legs, go legs, go legs. Awesome. You can also combine behaviors. So here I'm asking him to go circle, and then I'm going to ask him to go legs, and now I can ask him to go around because he's facing the other direction. Go around, and now go legs, go circle.
Here's another variation that you could do, which is have the dog do a figure of 8 around an object as well as you without having to go through your legs.
The fifth trick is paws up on a platform. This is a great trick for teaching your dog the skill of offering a behavior without a food lure. So once you've trained the food lure and you've lured the behavior, then you're going to see if the dog can do it without. And because it's an object that's in the environment, it's going to be a lot easier than if, say, you were asking your dog to sit and then you have no hand signal. So the object gives the dog an opportunity to offer behavior without you doing something. So it's a great step in your dog's learning process of offering behaviors without help from your hand signals or verbal cues. Are you ready? So it's a pretty simple trick to do. You just throw a treat away and choose a platform that's non-slip that your dog wants to stand on, and then you just put the platform between you and the treats. You want to make sure to use a non-slip platform that the dog finds comfortable to stand on. Are you ready? So you just throw a treat away and then lure your dog to put his front feet up on the platform. Now, if your dog doesn't want to put the feet up, try using a different object that they're more comfortable with to use as the first object. Free. So I'm going to mark and reinforce. Good. Multiple times, first for actually stepping onto it. Good. And then for staying on it. Good. And then throwing a treat away. I suggest immediately adding a release cue. So I'm going to say free, and then I'm going to throw a treat like that. So at first, it's a very obvious luring gesture onto the platform like that, marking and feeding, holding the treats quite close to your dog like this, so that they're not going to move around before they get their next treat. And then free. And then you start to go further away, so you're luring the dog from higher up and holding the treats closer to your body, marking, good, and then adding duration between the times that you mark, and then throwing the treat after saying free. Free, wee, like that. Paws up, awesome. Then you can see if the dog might offer it. Free. So you can say paws up and then lure, awesome. And then after doing that multiple times, you can say paws up as the dog is approaching it with your hands behind your back and see if your dog will offer the behavior. And then as they do it, you mark, good, and then go to feed a treat. Good. If you're a dog trainer, when you're teaching a class like this, I like to use a clicker because I can mark my dog while I'm talking so that I don't have to say, while I'm good, talking, good, like that. So that's one of the benefits of using a clicker as a trainer and educator, is that you can talk to the dog at the same time that you're talking to the audience. Good job. Free. You can use the paws up behavior to train many different tricks, including this one. Paws up, cover. Good. Paws up. Can you do chin? Good. Free. If you didn't already know, I've been making trick training videos for over a decade. Look in the description below for trick training tutorials when you're done with these 5. See you later.